Hey YouTube, today I decided to take out my old trusty Savage rifle. It's a 10 FPSR. It's got the threaded barrel and the muzzle brake. It's in 308. What I decided I wanted to do today is go ahead and adjust the Accutrigger without the supplied tool from Savage. I see a lot of stuff online about people having a hard time figuring out if they can adjust it or if they should adjust it without the tool. So we're going to go ahead and do it with just normal tools that you would have around the house today. We're not going to delve deep into the Accutrigger and what it's all about. If you're not familiar with it, it's a proprietary Savage trigger that's very nice, user adjustable without the need of a gunsmith, down to about 1.5 pounds. It has an integral safety system built in, so it blocks the sear release. So that really protects it from an accidental discharge if you have it down really light. That's something that happens a lot of times with Exmark Pros or Remingtons, just a ton of different triggers. If you take them down too light, there's an intrinsic risk that you could potentially have an accidental discharge if it's not adjusted properly or adjusted down too light. Savage kind of cured that with the Accutrigger. From a box stock standpoint, it's an excellent factory trigger. If you hear anything else from that, either the person that's telling you isn't familiar with triggers or they're just biased. I think they're great for what you get. They're absolutely great for being able to go in and adjust it yourself. Once we get in there, if we see anything on the sear engagement, we might give it a quick polish. But overall, it's going to be a real quick video just to show you how to break it down, how to adjust it, and how to test that trigger pull weight to get it where you want it. So first things first, we'll break in and we'll test it as it's set right now. And it is basically box stock factory as we sit right now. So when I test it with my Lyman trigger pull gauge, that's as it came out of the box. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope... Okay guys, well the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our trigger pull gauge and we're going to see where we are set from the factory. And then that's really the smart thing to do before you do any adjustment. You know, obviously a lot of people don't have a digital trigger pull gauge, you know, so you're going by feel and it's really about what you like. I just happen to have one, so I figured it's useful to use, and it gives us a solid reference to see where we started from, to see what kind of improvements or changes we get as we're going through the process. So we got her set up. Let's give it a shot. Obviously the gun is unloaded before I even put it on the bench, so we have nothing to worry about there. So right now that first pull was at 2.13, 2 pounds 13 ounces. We'll try and give it one more. See if we can get a repeatable number here. And that's 2 pounds, 5.6 ounces. So, you know, we're pretty close on those two. So we'll say it's 2.5 pounds right now as it sits box stock factory. So just to get everyone a good look right there. So let's go ahead and get this thing apart and see if we can get it any better. So the first thing we want to do is we want to separate the action from the stock. That allows us to get into the adjustment areas of the Accutrigger. Really easy operation on a Savage. Basically have your two action bolts right here. You do not have to remove the bolt behind the trigger group, at least on this rifle and most Savages that I've worked on. So really it's just these two. One thing you have to be mindful of as you're removing this, one is long and one is short. So you have to make sure you remember the orientation. It'll try and put it back together and it won't go together right. You'll think there's something wrong. So as you pull it, be mindful of what size it is as you pull it out. And that's the one thing that's kind of cool about having a mega scope on this, is it sits in the rest pretty easy without moving around. So you'll see this is our long bolt, our long action bolt, and on the front on this particular rifle is your short action bolt. So you can see, you know, pretty dramatic size difference right there. So at this point we have the action screws removed. We can go ahead and pull the stock off the action. And at this point we can go ahead and take a look at this trigger real quick, just so we understand what's happening with it. Alright guys, so what we have here is your basic Accutrigger. What you'll see right now, it's in an uncocked position. So we'll go ahead and cock it, and what you'll see right here, this is the sear, and this is the cocking notch that it sits in. So you'll see it, the sear engage in the cocking notch. And what makes this interesting, and what really makes it a good safe trigger, and what a lot of people actually find a little bit odd or weird with this, much like a Glock, what this does right here, you can see it acts as a sear stop. So unless that's depressed, the sear cannot engage to fire the weapon. So you can lighten this trigger up dramatically, and you don't have to worry about an accidental discharge or a bump fire or anything like that, because effectively you have a safety built in that does not allow the sear to engage the rest of the trigger mechanism and have the weapon fire. But once it's depressed, you can see what's controlling the spring that's controlling your trigger pull weight. You have the stop out of the way of the sear, and as you pull it, you can see that you release from the cocking notch and the sear actually engages into the trigger mechanism. So that's really how it functions. What we're actually going to try and adjust is right here, and this is actually your pull weight spring. So that's what we're actually going to flip the gun over, and we're going to try and adjust that down to get that trigger pull down a little bit less than the 2.5 pounds that we already have. Okay guys, well basically right now we're looking at the underside of the trigger. This is the spring that holds the stop in front of the sear that we discussed before. This is actually the spring that controls your trigger pull weight. This is where it gets people kind of confused, because Savage actually supplies you with a tool to do this. It's basically a hollowed out cylinder that engages this screw and allows it to turn. You can use your standard jeweler screwdriver. It does the same thing. Basically you're trying to get something small enough that can enter into the screw, and there's a little engagement crossbar at the top of it that allows you to turn it and either raise or lower the tension on your trigger. So basically at this point, once you understand what this spring is doing and what the tension on it amounts to with your trigger feel, it's relatively simple to deal with. Again, you know, just a jeweler screwdriver, a straight slot, so you can allow it to go in and engage that crossbar. If you put it in and you go clockwise, you're actually increasing tension on that spring, and therefore you would increase your trigger pull weight. If you go counterclockwise, you're actually reducing tension on that spring. So what you will see as you're doing that is the spring will get a little bit of exposure out of its housing, like what we have right now. Just a little bit out from where we were. We were probably about 2 turns in, so that's probably 2 full turns of adjustment. Let's go ahead and cock it and see if that made a difference for us. Okay. Make sure we have a pretty consistent pull. Alright, that is down to 1 pound, 15 ounces. We can probably try and go a little bit more. Let's see if it gets a little sketchy if we take any more out of there. So maybe I'll do maybe a half turn more. No, that's about the end of it. That's about all the adjustment we have. So we'll go and try and give it one more test. You know, the one thing I really do like about these triggers is there's no creep. You know, they're very repeatable. Nothing weird. Sometimes they're a little gritty, and the best way to deal with that is to go ahead and polish up the sear engagement. That's very easy to do. I've got a couple other videos out there about polishing engagement surfaces in handguns, but really it's pretty much the same thing. Alright, we are down to 1 pound, 13 ounces. You know, that's pretty damn good from a factory rifle. So that's really it, guys. There's not a lot to it. It's very easy to do. It's something you can do at home with your tools. It's safe, in my opinion. That's really the biggest benefit of these Savage triggers. It's not about getting it down to the lowest pull weight. It's getting it down to that pull weight where it's safe and you don't have to worry about accidental discharges. So that's really it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps. Please subscribe, rate, share with your friends. If there's anything else I can do out there to help you guys, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.